So Howard.
Downbeat.
Downbeat,
Yes.
here we go. That's right. Lights. So you've been writing music for a long time. How long? How long?
70 years.
70 years.
But before that, I wrote for dance bands. So it's really
That's not music?
75. Yes, but this is what we're talking about.
Okay.
You know, the CBC is celebrating in February their 75th anniversary.
Okay.
You know that?
Yes.
You can't miss it. It's on all the channels on CBC. I'm celebrating in February my 70th birthday on CBC.
Oh my goodness.
My first radio show was February 1942. I was 21.
21.
Yeah.
How does a man of 21 get a job working at the CBC in a place of authority, writing music, arranging music? You must have been a very talented fellow.
Pure luck.
Pure luck. It does have a lot to do with it.
A lot of luck.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I was married very early, and I was turned down for active service.
Oh, okay.
Because of my eye.
Luck.
Yeah, luck. So I was available to do these things on CBC, and through a party in Kitchener, of all places, started on Frederick Street in Kitchener.
Right.
I was rehearsing a dance band called Willis Tipping and his music.
Okay.
Long before your time. Willis Tipping was a big regional band, lived in Kitchener, used to go to all the places with trailers and play one-night stands, Hanover, Mount Forest.
Okay.
And I would come up from Toronto once a month and bring arrangements. I got $2 arrangement for them. And I would come up and rehearse them. And we were rehearsing in City Hall Square, which is long gone.
Right, yeah, too bad.
Paul Berg's music store. We rehearsed there. And I'm talking now 1940. And an announcer in Kitchener, a radio station in Kitchener called Bing Whittaker, was a jazz fan. And we weren't playing jazz, we were playing, you know, society, commercial dance music. Willis Tipping was not a swing band, but it was not a sweet band, it was kind of in between. And I was writing these arrangements, and Bing Whittaker was very impressed with it, with my writing. And he told me that at the time when I was coming up to Kitchener.
Yeah.
2 years later, Percy Faith left CBC for the States. He got the Coca-Cola hour, and the CBC didn't know what to do. And they called in the one guy who they thought knew music, who had just arrived at CBC from Kitchener, named Bing Whittaker. He had just got the job at CBC, and they said, Bing, what are we going to do? Percy Faith is gone, we have no show. And he said, there's a guy in Kitchener called Cable.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Isn't that
so
amazing?
I got a phone call from Peter Jennings' father, who was Peter Jennings, the newsman. His father was running the English network, and he said, can you come in for an audition? So we Bing Whittaker and I put together a show called Reminisces with Whittaker. Reminisces with Whittaker. And we played it, and we had a vocalist named Norma Locke, who later became Mrs. Mark Kenny, who was now the grandmother of Jason Kenney, the immigration minister. Anyway, she was brand new, and she'd just come from Ottawa to study at the Royal Conservatory. So we put her in the show as well, and the CBC bought the show. And it went on the air in February 12th, 1942, which is 70 years ago next February.
You seem very sure of all these dates. That's amazing.
I never miss. My memory is just fine. When it goes, goodbye.
But as a man at 21 years old, you're already doing arrangements that are good enough to be heard on national radio. I mean, what was your instrument? Piano?
It was piano originally, and then it was a very long story how I got there. It's too long for this particular program. But I became a clarinet player, and then I became an oboist. And then the oboist got me a scholarship with Sir Ernest Macmillan. And I got a degree from the Conservatory signed by Ernest Macmillan in conducting and bandmastership, and that's it.
Wow.
I never played brass, but I've written for brass for 70 years.
You write great for brass.
But I never played the brass instrument.
Yeah.
But I really studied because Sir Ernest was my orchestration teacher.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Whenever you would come to the KW Symphony and you'd bring your arrangements, we just love that. I'm always the brass was great writing for brass.
The brass writing is pretty strong.
Yeah.
In fact, it was so strong in Winnipeg. I got a review from this, after my symphony, that the horn section will be pleased to go back to Mahler after cable.
That's right. Yeah, some tough stuff. That's right. I remember you telling me that whenever you did an arrangement, even if you didn't think it needed a trumpet in it, you would write a few notes for the trumpet.
Sure.
Because if you didn't, they'd go off and get a coffee somewhere.
That's exactly right.
And then you'd come back to do the next piece, and where are the trumpets? So you always wrote one little snippet in there to keep them on the stand.
Or to they look at magazines.
Yeah, yeah.
And miss the entry.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the other thing. They're sitting there.
Now we work on our iPods.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
The iPhones. We do that. Yeah. I remember a funny story. I played Phantom of the Opera a lot, and there was a guy who came into sub one time, and he'd done the show a bunch of times, but they wanted him to come and watch the show one time. So he had a magazine, and he was back there reading the magazine, and the conductor came in and saw him. She said, "That's the most unprofessional thing I've ever seen." And he said, "Well, the only reason I was reading a magazine was because I couldn't see the first trumpet player's television set on his stand from where I was sitting." So, yeah, that's
lots of stories about that.
That's what it's come to, yeah, yeah. So you're continuing to write. You're still writing.
Oh yeah.
And this is just fantastic. You know, we think back of maybe some other composers, the days gone by, when they sort of reached their 80s, they kind of petered out. There was not much writing going on, but you've decided that you want to take these years and just you're writing like crazy.
Well, I'm writing almost all wind band and brass band music.
Okay.
I'm not writing symphony music or strings. I mean,
right.
If I have to do an arrangement, I'll do it. But see, I can get my music played by wind band and brass bands.
Right.
You cannot do it by symphony. You write a symphony piece, and the best orchestras won't program it because it's light music anyway. It's light music. We won't touch that. We might do it on pops if possible. If the conductor can't rent something.
Right.
You know, it's always you buy something from Lux or you rent something, and I have here, play this. But then after that, you go out to community orchestras who can't play it.
Right. Yeah.
So there's a great distinction between the orchestra that can play it and the orchestra that can't play it.
Right.
There's nobody in between.
Huh.
But in brass bands and concert bands, there's a band in between. There's always, I mean, you know the grading, the grade 6,
right.
grade 5, grade 4. I mean, I've been writing grade 4. Mm-hmm. My sponsor in Alberta, I'll come to them later. Mm-hmm. My sponsor said, you get into high schools and get it played. Try some grade 3. So I rewrote some of my grade 4s for grade 3. And they're getting played now.
Yeah.
So there's always a way with wind band and brass bands.
Right. How do you find that? I mean, if you've got a piece that you've written for grade 5 or grade 4, which is fairly difficult, do you find that you can take a composition like that and you can modify it enough and without losing the integrity of the piece for the
Well, I can't. I probably lose a little bit of the sheen.
Yeah. Because
of the keys, but first thing I do is lower the keys.
Yeah, yeah.
So that the brass are not playing in G's and A's.
Right.
Ledger lines. That's the biggest problem we have with grade 3 is the trumpets.
Right.
Pardon the expression.
They can't get up.
They you know, E and E flat and E, maybe an F, maybe. But grade 3, because if it's higher than that, teachers won't look at it.
Right, they won't even.
They can't be bothered trying to figure out whether they can alter it.
Unless they've got a kid who can really shine up there.
That's true. Or else if they're possibly able to reorchestrate it in a way. Yeah. But that's another thing with missing parts. You know, I try not to. My grade 5 things are not cued, but my grade things are.
Right.
You know?
So if there's an instrument that's missing, if you don't have an oboe, say, then it's in the clarinet part or the alto sax, whatever. Yeah.
So I have to cue that. So that's the way I do. I bring them down. I don't dumb them down.
Right.
I narrow them down.
Right. Right.
I hope they still have the atmosphere, the sizzle that they had before.
Yeah. So a lot of the music that you've arranged over the years, and I guess these are mostly arrangements, would be, you drew on a lot of Canadian folk music.
I did.
You did, but you're not doing that so much anymore.
I'm not doing it now.
No,
really.
no.
I'm creating my own Canadian folk music.
You're creating your own. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about some of the. What was your inspiration for some of the folk?
You're talking about the 50s now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was around in the 50s.
Yeah. You're just a little kid.
Just barely.
Just barely. Well, you see, there was. I went to Newfoundland in 1947, the year before they became a province.
Yeah.
So they were still under the British reign. They were a British colony in the 47. I went there, and interesting enough, I went there because my publisher at the time, who later became Stompin' Tom's publisher, so he made his money in Stompin' Tom, but he was my publisher at that point. Not much publication, but anyway, he said that he had a message from his New York affiliate that the British were over in Newfoundland catching folk songs. Cyril Sharp, Holtz, Gustav Holtz, Vaughan Williams. They were all sent people over to the British colony to mine these folk songs.
Sure.
And the American publisher told the Canadian publisher, why don't you send somebody over and stop this British thing? We'd like to publish it here. So they sent Leslie Bell and myself over in 1947, and we collected folk songs and came back and rewrote them into works. Newfoundland Rhapsody was written. American publisher picked it right up.
Yeah.
Chappell picked it right up. They sent it to England, and Chappell in England picked it right up. And Leslie Bell had the same thing. Fred Waring picked up his Shawnee Publications picked up his choral arrangements. So that was what happened. That's why we were in Newfoundland. Then became a province. Then I went on the air with the Hable Concert Band, and CBC wanted certain things, like Saint Jean Baptiste Day. Saint Jean Baptiste Day is the 24th of June, and they wanted to honor, but they had no music for Saint Jean Baptiste Day. So they said, write me something on Quebec.
And they asked you this on the 20th of June.
Right? Yeah. No, they asked me, yeah, the year before.
There was enough time, okay.
Enough time. Well, so I wrote Quebec Folk Fantasy.
Right.
And that became a sparkling number on the 24th of June for Saint Jean Baptiste Day. And Chappell heard that in New York. Our program was on the American radio network, on Mutual. And the Chappell had twigged to this guy in Canada writing band music. So they picked up Quebec Folk Fantasy and sent it to England. It became an army journal. And all the British Army in the whole world got Quebec Folk Fantasy. It's still being played, as you know. Still, Chappell, the Army Journal is long gone, but it's still there. Then the next thing was Snake Fence Country. And Snake Fence Country was, they asked me for a soundtrack, some music to be put in a documentary on the demise of the steam locomotives.
Okay.
Diesel was coming in,
right.
52, 53, as you know. Steam disappeared rather quickly, and diesel came in fast. And they wanted to do a documentary on a square dance for steam locomotives. So they shot a lot of footage in the roundhouses.
Right.
And then they doctored it up with a stop frame, back for forward, and they had locomotives in the roundhouse doing square dance. So they wanted some music. That's how Snake Fence got together. So you'll hear churning.
Yeah.
That's all steam locomotives doing. And Chappell picked that up too. They said this is perfect because it's folk music. And it's playable everywhere, and there are American folk songs and British folk songs. Yeah, there are some American. Well, there was something about the building of the Wellington Canal, or wasn't there in that? Wasn't there a folk song from that Snake Fence? Not in Snake Fence. There was a folk song about the men who from Canada who went over into Buffalo to find an evening's entertainment. Oh, Buffalo Gals. Buffalo Gals. Oh, Buffalo Gals was actually that's true. Yeah. In a way. Buffalo Gals is big. That was actually called Mohawk Gals. And you let those high school kids play that music, Howard. Absolutely. Dear. Buffalo Gals. Charlie Harper and 2.5 Men just mentioned it on his. Is that right? Well, yeah, Buffalo Gals. Anyway, that was in the Snake Fence Country. So the Arkansas Traveler and Turkey in the Straw are both in there. Right. So that's an American-Canadian thing. And then I had Newfoundland, Quebec, Snake Fence, and I did the Rasman things like that for Elmer. And
oh,
the
that you did. Was there not an arrangement for brass quintet and choir?
Yeah.
Of some folk songs.
Yeah,
I remember I did that with
yeah.
With Elmer.
There was Quebec, Pastiche Quebec.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And the Newfoundland Rhapsody, that's been arranged for. I think I first heard that as a brass quintet arrangement, the Canadian brass arrangement.
Well, that's the way he did that. That doesn't include the same material.
Right.
Like Let Me Face Off Case of Mary.
Too many flats. That's why.
Too many flats. Well, that's because I wrote it. I moved 4 times.
But I knew all those tunes. Yeah. No. But then there's the band version, and that was the original. Was the band version.
Newfoundland.
Newfoundland.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I've done it for symphony orchestra.
Oh yeah. I redid it. I changed it for strings. Yeah. But it's still chapel.
Right.
And the reason that I'm doing the new one is because I could never get the copyright back from Chappell.
Oh, okay.
See, Chappell was bought by Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers take the whole catalog and put it to Los Angeles, and they don't care about Canadian music at all.
Right.
So they pushed some of it over to Alfred. Warner Brothers is pop. It's a pop catalog.
Right. Yeah.
And I could never, so I decided I'll continue, and then David Marlett picked it up and we republished it. And the brass band, the concert band are exactly the same.
Right, okay. Yeah. As far as the material that's there.
The material is exactly the same as Newfoundland Rhapsody until the end of the trombone solo, and then it's completely different after that.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's the way I got around the copyright. I mean, I'm not republishing their copyright.
Right.
I'm doing my new copyright.
You're doing a dance there.
Yeah.
A little dance.
Yeah, a little dance.
How do you find that with the publishers? Are they usually pretty easy to work with, or I mean, I guess once it went to Warner Brothers, it's a little bit more difficult.
No, the publishers are really non-existent anymore.
Oh, okay.
Back in the 50s, the publishers were all interested in quality music.
Right.
And that's when band music, really publication of good band music was at the height.
Yeah.
Because the publishers knew what they were doing.
Right.
And then the publishers companies were all sold to holding companies and investment brokers, and nobody now knows anything about it.
Right. Yeah.
They're all
exactly.
lawyers and accountants.
They don't know anything about.
They don't know anything about music.
But these arrangements, or sorry, these compositions that you're writing now, they're not going to a publishing house.
No, they're not. The Bank of Newfoundland is David Marlett, eighth note.
Okay.
But nothing else is. They're all on the computer.
But your sponsor that you were telling me about a little bit, just explain how that's working now as far as distribution and what's...
Well, distribution is if he's paid me for 10 years.
Now, who is this fellow now?
This is Ralph Thrall, Jr.
Okay.
of Lethbridge and McGrath, who has a ranch that is the largest in Canada, working ranch, 55,000 acres, down 14 miles from the Montana border.
Right.
And on the Great Divide. So one stream goes to Hudson's Bay, the other stream goes to the Gulf of Mexico. And he loves band music.
Yeah.
And he puts money where his mouth is.
Yeah.
And he's spent over $100,000 in 10 years. He pays my bills and the copyist bills.
Right.
And I copyright everything. It's all copyright by me as a composer. But as far as the publisher, it's McIntyre Ranching Company.
So that's the publisher. So if somebody wants to Google that to find some of your work.
McIntyre Ranching Publishing, Lethbridge, Alberta.
Lethbridge, okay.
And my copyist has it all on computer. The whole catalog is on the computer. And my sponsor says, Mr. Thrall says that if somebody wants to play it, let them have it.
Right.
He says, I don't want to get involved in dealers and discounts and keeping books and HST. He said, press the key, PDF file.
And it goes.
That goes.
No money changes hands.
No money changes.
So people can go and play your music and download these PDFs of these parts.
Yeah, if they go through.
If they go through him.
Go through him or me or him. Yeah.
And so anybody can get these.
If they, we don't want it to be played to be sat on a shelf.
Right. Yeah.
Ralph feels that it has to be played. He's one of the unusual sponsors in Canadian music. I mean, there's a lot of money in Canada, but nobody else comes forward. Except the Westons do. But then the Canada Council gets grants. But this is a guy who loves band music and choral music. We do choral music as well.
This is beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like I've not heard of anything like this, where
No.
somebody is putting his money where his mouth is, but then making it available to anyone
Yeah.
for no charge.
No charge. Canada needs more songs about Canada.
Right.
And we went to Montana to hear me conduct my Charlie Russell suite, which is an American suite. And we did July the 4th down there, and he was with me. And coming back, we said, you know, the Americans are so wonderful. I mean, there's so much patriotic music, and they all stand up with their hand and they salute, and, you know. And but Canada doesn't have that. What's the big song for Canada? Well, the Maple Leaf Forever, which nobody plays in Quebec.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
There's nothing else.
Hockey Night in Canada.
Well, that's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
It's gone. CBC doesn't care. So he said, why don't we do some Canadian music, choral music, vocal music. So he has a friend who's a kind of a cowboy poet, and he's retired. He's 91. He's older than I am, and he wrote not doggerel, but good poems.
Right.
So right away we wrote this Canada, Our Canada. It's a patriotic song, and we wrote that, and I arranged it for choir. I arranged it for SSA, so kids are singing it in Lethbridge.
Sure, yeah.
The schools are singing it in Lethbridge. And last Sunday I had it sung in Ottawa by the Harmonia Singers, the SATB, and it's also arranged for band, and it's also become a march called Parliament Hill. It's the same tune,
Okay.
and it's for concert band. So then we wrote a prairie song, which the poet wrote, and I said that it's a folk song. So I'm writing folk songs now. This is a folk song.
So you're actually writing it. This isn't a folk song that somebody else's.
No.
These are your own.
My own folk song.
Your own folk song.
And it's a prairie song, and it's 5 verses long.
Yeah.
And I wrote it for SSA and SSA and a band. There's about 5 arrangements of the prairie song.
People should just know when you say SSA, this is soprano.
Soprano, second, and alto.
Alto.
That's what you do in school.
So that's either for women's choir or for children's choir.
Yeah. Mainly children's choir in Lethbridge.
Right.
Yeah. We don't have a women's choir.
Okay.
But then the next thing you know anything about the Frank Slide?
No.
The Frank Slide. Frank is a town in Alberta in the Crow's Nest Trail at the bottom, with the border between Alberta and BC.
Okay.
And it's called the Crow's Nest Pass. You've heard of the Crow's Nest Pass?
That I know. That I've heard of. Yeah.
Well, Frank was a town out right on the Crow's Nest Pass, which in 1906, the mountain fell on it.
Okay.
Turtle Mountain, which they were mining for coal underneath, and the whole mountain fell on the town, obliterated the town, killed hundreds of people.
Yeah.
And it's called the Frank Slide.
Right.
It's a slide. The Turtle Mountain fell down.
Right.
So I thought, well, let's do a song on this Frank Slide.
Yeah.
I researched to see if anybody had done anything.
Yeah.
There was one folk song about the Frank Slide that Ed McCurdy did years and years ago, but I couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
So I wrote another folk song. And I wrote that for SATB, soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. And I wrote it as part of my band piece. So that's another. So I'm ready. I've written 2 folk songs.
Yeah.
In this setup.
Yeah. In the Newfoundland Rhapsody, I should get the title right for band.
The Banks of Newfoundland.
Banks of Newfoundland.
The Banks of Newfoundland.
So there's quite a few folk songs in there, and there was one that when I was studying it and playing it with the band was rather obscure, about the Badger Drive.
Well, the Badger Drive.
Yeah, and I knew I have a Stan Rogers album where he sings that.
Yeah.
And but it's not a really well known.
No, it's not. It's only in there because I didn't have I didn't have Lies to Buy,
Right.
the Badger Drive, or Kelligoo Soiree in the
Right.
original. And I, as you know, they got played a lot. It was used as theme songs in Newfoundland.
Right.
I went back to Newfoundland in the early 70s, and people said, well, you know, you're the composer of Newfoundland Rhapsody and all that. They lauded me and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, sure.
But they said, however,
Yes.
you missed the lumberman.
When people don't think, you think of Newfoundland, you think of fish.
Yeah.
Fish. You don't think of lumber, but
That's
there's
right.
it's quite a lumber industry there.
Very big lumber.
Yeah.
The West Coast is all lumber.
Right.
West Coast is all Bowater paper. It's all paper.
Right.
And they said, you didn't talk about the lumberman. So I said, well, it's a good point. And they said, and the Eyes to Buy isn't there either. That's the most famous
Yeah.
Newfoundland. I said, well, I didn't use it before because when I went in '47, it was a dirty song.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So Howard, I mean, now that you're writing your own music, What do you feel about the way music is going in general? You know, there's a thought where people in earlier days, maybe they wrote music for the sake of music. They wrote music about ideas, what you know, trying to convey a thought. Or what's happening with music now? What do you see?
What I see, I don't honestly know. I really don't know where it's going. I mean, it's certainly the Rusty Gate music is dying out. Although not
Rusty Gate.
The Rusty Gate
meaning
tin roof.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But the councils love it.
Do you want to put a name to any of that music?
Rusty music.
A composer?
No.
Okay.
But the councils love it because they are really stocked by elitists, and we know that elitists like that kind of music. Mm. They think they do. It's apparent that they do. Let's put it that way. Mm. So I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, the pop music is you can't predict pop music.
Things are changing so quickly.
Things are changing all the time. I mean,
the traditions are not.
There's a whole idea in the army now. Have a pop band. Mm. A pop. They've changed the Winnipeg Air Force band to a pop band. And guess what they're playing?
So what do they sing? Eagles 70s tunes. Yeah.
The idea is, of course, for a band, the military band, to go out and recruit soldiers.
Right.
Right. So they're playing music for the parents of the soldiers or the grandparents of the soldiers. Yeah. They haven't got past the 70. All the service people, the service arrangers in Ottawa are writing pop music, and the civilian down in Toronto is writing military music.
Yeah, I never could understand. I mean, I do conduct. I'm a conductor, obviously. I conduct pops concerts. I could never understand the draw to listening to Carpenter's song played by a symphony orchestra without a vocalist.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand that.
Sense.
It doesn't make any sense, and I wonder where that kind of music is going. I mean, maybe this is a discussion for another time, but I mean, when someone asks you to write a pops piece, I mean, what do? You don't look at the 70s. You don't look at the 70s pop music. What do you think?
Somebody asked me, but now you mean
now? If somebody now,
very few people ask me to write arrangements now. Yeah. The last thing I did was something for Quartetto Gelato.
Okay. Yeah.
I write for them.
Yeah.
Here intermittently, but no, the pop scene is crazy because the dance shows on television. The dance shows that you see on American television networks, the bands are always big bands.
Yeah.
They're playing big band stuff.
Exactly.
They say big band's dead. Well, it's dead for dancers. Yeah. The 80-year-olds won't come out and jitterbug anymore. There's no room for the walkers on the floor, you know. But so the big bands, of course, the problem with big bands is that all the arrangements that the big bands use, the Spitfire band, the Glenn Miller band, they're all less than 3 minutes long.
Yeah.
So you can't do a concert without playing 45 tunes in an hour and a half, because everything is 2.5 minutes. Because why is it 2.5 minutes? Because 78s were 2.5 minutes.
Get fitted on the side of a 78.
Everything was 78s, you see, and all those arrangements are 78s. But the big bands, I can't believe that. The big shows, Sure You Can Dance, Can You Dance, American Dances, they're all big band shows.
Well, Michael Bublé.
Yeah.
You know, here's a guy, sung millions of albums, and he's got a big band behind him. So, you know, just when you say, well, people aren't asking you for arrangements, I mean, there's still, you're a highly, highly revered man in this country. I see on your lapel here, you've got the Order of Canada.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is, do you feel that Canada has done well by you? Are they?
Oh yeah, I'm doing fine. I'm doing very well. There's several things that I would like to do. People keep asking me about, because I have so many stories. Everything I've written has a story behind it, and I've worked with all the big. I'm the only one, I think, now who goes back to the 40s on CBC.
Right.
I mean, I worked with Lorne Greene long before he became Paul Cartwright.
Right.
He was my MC on a program called Canadian Cavalcade for Borden's Milk. Elsie.
Elsie the cow. That's right.
Milk spelled backwards is Klim.
Klim.
We had commercials for Klim that I wrote. musical commercial for
Okay.
Klim. But Lauren Green was the announcer on that show.
Yeah.
And that show was Canadian Cavalcade. We introduced Canadian talent. And
Now speaking about that,
yeah.
my mother, she lives with us here. She was telling me yesterday, I said, Howard Cable is coming to our house. And she was, my goodness, she said, I think I sang for Howard Cable. There was a show that you were a judge on, something, the Future Stars, what was it?
Stars of Tomorrow.
Stars of Tomorrow.
Stars of Tomorrow.
And my mother, she said, she came in and she sang Un Bel Dee.
Yeah.
And she said she can't, all she knew was that she didn't get any farther on in that. She was going to come over here today when we're having coffee. She's going to dress you down a little bit and ask her why she didn't get.
I wasn't the musical director.
Why she didn't get promoted to the next.
Rex Battle was the musical director. I was a judge, but I wasn't.
You were a judge, okay. Yeah. Anyway, it was.
And a good judge too.
A good judge. Well, I don't know. He didn't pick my mom. So,
there you go.
So yeah.
That was Singing Stars of Tomorrow.
Singing Stars. So that's the kind of thing you're talking about, yeah.
The Canadian Cavalcade introduced instrumentalists. The first of October in '46, we brought this young pianist named Oscar Peterson on from Montreal. And the next month, we brought this young 19-year-old trumpet player from Montreal. Guess who?
Maynard Ferguson. That's right. That's right.
They both made their debut with me on the Canadian Cavalcade.
Yeah. Oh, is that
on
right?
the radio, Oscar came in. He was 21 when he came in.
Is Maynard still with us?
No.
No.
No, they're both gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a picture of Maynard on my mirror in my practice tube, right
Maynard
there.
was 19 when he came
Looks
in.
like he's playing a note in the strat. It looks like he's gonna just explode.
Oh yeah.
Just amazing.
Always was.
And I look at that and I remember I had a teacher telling me, he said that man, he puts a hurricane through his trumpet.
Yeah.
And that's how he plays.
Yeah.
The wind with the wind. That's amazing. Yeah. Looking back, of all the music you've written, how many pieces? Guess, just a guess.
Over 1,000 for TVC,
1,000
CBC.
pieces.
1,000 on radio and television, probably more, 1,500.
Yeah.
And since then, I did the Royal York Hotel with the band there.
I remember a buddy and I tried to sneak in to hear you guys play one night, and you caught us at the door. No, you can't come in here.
Well, we had a great time at that.
Yeah.
I was there for 16 years in
Yeah.
Royal York and Imperial. And that was the last of the cabaret scene.
Right.
I mean, after that, cabarets died out.
Yeah.
But we had Tony Bennett every year. We had Ella every second year. Peggy Lee every
I remember the marquee there, just on when you're coming up York Street. Yeah.
And you know, I had a house band of 9.
Right.
Eric
Trotter.
Bobby.
Yeah.
And Al Stanwyck and Sam Noto would come in, and when Ella came in, we had 4 trumpets.
Yeah.
You know, Eric, Bobby, Sam Noto, and Al Stanwyck. Yeah. And
Who could play the highest note?
Oh, Al.
Al Stanwyck.
Yeah.
He got up there. Yeah.
He always at the end he'd always drop.
Yeah.
He'd put an ending on. I stopped. Don't do that. And we had Ella came in every second year with great charts.
Yeah.
And she brought her own rhythm section.
Right.
We hired the saxes, Bernie Pilch, Mo Kaufman.
Sure.
It was all of the best bands.
Yeah.
In fact, it was so good that Ella would not rehearse sometimes. She'd come in for a 2-hour rehearsal. We'd open Monday night. She'd come in on Monday afternoon and say, you can play that. Yeah. She knew the band. And she'd pull stuff out that we hadn't rehearsed.
Yeah.
Hey, get number 11 out there. Play like that. And she said after that she couldn't do that anywhere else.
Is that right?
Yeah. She
Toronto.
couldn't do that in Des Moines, Iowa, or Omaha, Nebraska.
No.
Oh yeah.
But some great musicians in Toronto that you worked with over the years. Yeah.
And the trombones, Jerry Johnson.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah. Ernie Passon. Yeah.
Yeah. And Count Basie was there one night.
Yeah.
He said, we played some Basie charts because Bobby Harriet had a Basie book, a Sam Nestico book.
Right.
So we bring that in. When Ella came in, we'd bring the Sam Nestico book in. And I'd go out to the back to see, and there's Ella leaning against the wall before the show, 20 minutes before the show. And I say, you're early. She says, I came down to hear the band.
Nice. Isn't that nice?
And Basie said, he says, we can't play like those yet.
Anyway, back to my question. So, of all the music, so we're up to 2,500 or so, whatever. What do you think will be the music? What's the high water mark for you? What's going to be the music that is going to be played into years to come?
My name?
With your name on it. What do you think? What compositions?
You know, snake fence country and Quebec folk, they go back to the 50s.
Yeah.
But they're still being played all the time.
Still being played, yeah.
Still being played. They played them in Aurelia last week.
Yeah.
Snake fence country. And Quebec is played all the time on Saint Jean Baptiste Day,
yeah,
by all the bands. I think Newfoundland, Banks of Newfoundland will probably be the
yeah,
one that sticks.
Yeah.
I hope that my other compositions will. We'll see. I can't predict how successful McIntyre Ranch country will be, but I've rearranged it for symphony orchestra.
Right.
I've rearranged it for symphony. It's cowboy songs with a First Nations dance at the end.
Mm.
So that was the first thing I wrote for him.
Okay.
And he wanted his favorite cowboy songs. See, the ranch has 9 cowboys down there that live there.
Okay. Yeah.
And they round up the cattle.
Did they like band music?
I don't think they even know about that. They probably would be, if he was still alive, they'd be Don Messer fans.
Yeah.
But he certainly likes band music.
Yeah.
But you know, there's a great many pieces that we like and he likes. We like to have them played.
Yeah.
And who knows where it's going to go.
Yeah.
But with McIntyre Ranch country is all the cowboy songs that he knew growing up with.
Right.
They're mostly American.
Mm-hmm.
They're all American really, but they're all Canadian because it's right in the border.
Right. Yeah.
Well, Montana was there.
Yeah.
And the last one was an owl dance for the Blackfoot, because he's an honorary chief of the Blackfoot.
Oh, is that right, eh?
Yeah, so he wanted to close the McIntyre Ranch with a dedication to the First Nations.
Isn't that beautiful?
So he's an honorary chief.
Okay.
And so I did it was pretty hard to do the owl dance because he sent me a disc of the Indian days.
Right.
And it was quite a job to try to, I say, you know, they sing in quarter tones.
Yeah.
And I took it off, and I'm not sure that the Blackfoot would recognize the dance as it is.
That's right.
But everybody thinks it's a great First Nations dance.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Is that something that you've ever, like, you consider, you know, the Newfoundland folk music, French Canadian folk music, English folk music, is that something that you ever entered into as far as our tradition, the Canadian tradition, the heritage, native music?
Native, if I could zero in on the pitch.
Yeah.
But it's so, it really is. It's there.
Yeah.
It's somewhere there.
So that doesn't take a huge part of your catalog.
No.
That kind of.
But the folk song, the cowboy songs are pretty good, and they're, I think that McIntyre Ranch country works very well.
Yeah.
I've also done it for quintet. Right. There's a quintet arrangement. There's a brass band arrangement. See, I rewrite myself.
Yeah.
I do something, arrangement A or composition A, and then he says, you know, maybe if you like, or somebody calls and says, "Is there a quintet arrangement of that?" So I phone him and I say, "What do you think?" And he said, "Go for it."
Getting as many different groups playing your music as possible.
I have McIntyre Ranch is the first one of the set. There's a brass band, a symphony orchestra, quintet, grade 3.
Right.
Yeah.
The symphony orchestra music that you have written. Now I understand you've donated your library to Symphony Nova Scotia.
Symphony Nova Scotia. Yeah.
So, but some of the other stuff that you're doing with McIntyre Ranch, you're arranging for symphony orchestra. Is it available there as well, or is it all? Does everything go to?
Well, it will be eventually be in Symphony Nova Scotia.
It will
Right now, it's not there. I'm doing it next week. 2 weeks in Nova Scotia.
Oh, is that right?
And I'm doing it in Scarborough too.
Okay.
And then after that, it'll go to Nova Scotia. Yeah. It's part of my library, and why should they? But they're now renting the library that I did, and they're looking after that. I'm glad to say I don't have to package anything.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have to get a bill.
Yeah.
Collect. Please pay this.
We've been down there. I know the KW Symphony's gone. We've Jim Eager, right?
Yeah.
He's the librarian. We've contacted him and asked him, can you send us this? And he says, well, I guess so. Yeah.
Well, Jim's in charge of it now.
Yeah.
And Point Peely, for instance, the trumpet solo, which is now a horn solo with strings.
Right.
And
you did that with us, Martin Limoges played that.
It's on the recording.
Yeah.
And the Toronto Symphony is renting that for 12 performances.
Great.
So there you go.
Yeah.
So Symphony Nova Scotia is getting. I didn't get paid. I got big tax receipt.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the way it works.
So they're renting it, and they're
keeping it. Yeah.
Keep the fee. So for a young conductor, a band conductor, say who is just sort of figuring out what's available and what's out there, what advice would you have to somebody who is looking to play some of your repertoire?
Some of my repertoire.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to find.
Yeah.
Because we don't work with dealers. You know, because dealers, you know, as you know, Northdale,
right.
the Ontario Pictures is Northdale.
Yeah. Okay.
But they wouldn't produce a quintet arrangement.
Right.
There's a quintet. I did one for True North Brass.
Right.
For Al Kay and Joan, and they won't do that. It's not a big enough market. They don't. So I did it myself.
Right.
And I changed the title to three Pictures of Ontario.
There you go. Yeah.
And now it's I paid my copyist to do it. It's on his computer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how would somebody get a hold of that music, that quintet arrangement?
Just phone. Phone me.
Phone you.
Yeah. I'll give them Martin's number.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now this collection of works that you've written for the McIntyre Ranch, though, is there a website for that they can go to? Do you remember the? Or
well, there's a McIntyre Ranch website, but I'm not sure how updated it is.
Yeah.
But we have to work at that.
Yeah. And
make the stuff available.
Is it so? It's not all available yet. Some of it.
It's there. If all you do is press a key and PDF files come shooting out.
The PDFs get emailed right to come right into your computer.
That's
you print
right.
them off, and your band can play them for
That's
free.
What we do.
Yeah.
You see, Ralph Thrall doesn't want to get involved with payment.
Right.
Because payment means paperwork.
Oh.
And he says $1.39 I could get.
There's no tax though in Alberta. Is
Yeah,
there? So
but we don't buy it in Alberta.
Yeah.
We buy it in Alberta, but it's too complicated.
Yeah.
It's keeping the books, paying all this stuff. You know, if they want to play it and they're good, don't send music out if it's going to sit in the shelf.
Yeah.
My advice to young conductors in Canada, band conductors especially, is stop looking at Hal Leonard.
Yeah.
Forget Hal Leonard.
Yeah.
For God's sake, get some Canadian performance. There's lots of Canadian band music.
Yeah, some
there's
great.
Not maybe a lot, but there's more band music that you could do than going to Hal Leonard, because you know that's the key to educating. Educators don't have a sense of where to look.
Yeah.
You know, I did one of those sessions where you play the new music.
Right.
You know, I did it about 4 years ago for Jack Long.
Mm-hmm.
And there were maybe 12, 16 people there, educators in Ontario.
Yeah.
12 or 16. And they were looking at the Hal Leonard box, you know.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing with Curnow, James Curnow, out in Vancouver. And there was a lineup.
Yeah.
So it depends on the province.
Right.
I mean, Ontario is particularly lax about music. I think Mike Harris destroyed it, and we never got back.
Yeah.
He killed it in the schools, and the effort to build music up in the schools disappeared with teachers.
Yeah.
Because they weren't getting anywhere.
Right.
So BC and Alberta is strong. Nova Scotia is strong. Manitoba is pretty good. We're the low problem. Quebec is wonderful.
Yeah.
But as long as it's written by Quebecers. So the country is.
Yeah, I remember doing a web search for band music. Mm-hmm. When I first got the job conducting the Wellington Winds, I was not particularly educated about band music, and I did a web search, and up came, I think there were the 30 or 40 pieces that you had to program, and your name came up. Your name was there, and I think there was a link. It was Wikipedia, and a link came up. I think that there was a link giving a list of your compositions.
Mm-hmm.
I think that
the Wind Journal did that.
Yeah.
The big
okay.
In fact, there's an article coming out on the banks of Newfoundland by Glenn Gillis of Saskatoon.
Okay.
But that they listed the music. But Don Coakley wrote after they listed there was nothing. One piece by Don Coakley and nothing by me.
Right.
And he said, where did they check? Where did they find this list?
Who are they looking at?
It was all Hal Leonard.
Yeah. So is there a place? I mean, I guess other than Googling, this website, this web broadcast that we're going to do of your piece, this project that we're involved in is going to draw attention to your music, hopefully. I mean, and that's going to be great. And, you know, perhaps there'll be something, some links available there to direct people to finding more of your music. But it's not like there's a clearinghouse. There's not a place where you can go and say, all of Howard Cable's band music is here.
No, I can give you Martin's number, but that would be, he's too busy to answer the phone.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the best thing to do is contact me. Yeah. Yeah, and I'll turn them over. Yeah. Contact me on, I have a Facebook.
Yeah, okay.
I have a Facebook. And I don't do it, but my companion does it.
Yeah, so somebody goes to your Facebook, joins your Facebook, and then says, I want to play a piece. Yeah. This is my band, level 3, grade 3, whatever. And you can tell them what to do.
That's the thing. Yeah, if they speak well of you know, I mean, I can't judge a band on the phone.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. But if they want, I always ask them. Anybody phones, I said, what grade are you playing?
Yeah.
Of course, that's kind of deceptive too, because they can say we're playing Suite of Old American Dances by, and how well? Well, not very well. So that's the thing.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It's tricky to assess people's ability to cut through from 3 to 4 and 4 to 5.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know. And sometimes they think they're a 4, but they're really a 2.
They're really a 2.
Yeah. So, well, Howard, this has just been great. It's an honor for us to have you, my family, here in our home, and to talk with you about these things. We haven't sat down for a long time. We've been working for 30 years. We've been working together. This is my 30th year in the KW Symphony.
There you go.
Yeah. So.
And you played a lot of my shows too.
I played a lot of your shows. I know you too.
Plus the Drayton stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Anyway, this has just been great.
Yeah.